All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation. If you're a veteran and you're struggling or feel like you're leading down a path towards darkness, stop and think about those who are around you. Think about how they truly value you, how they will miss you. You are not alone. You need to talk to someone. Someone will listen to you. If you feel like you'll be a burden to your friends or your family, or you're embarrassed, call the anonymous hotline at 1-800-273-8255 and take option one. Get the help you need before it's too late. If you're a new listener, thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps. If you haven't already, please download the Military Broadcast Radio app and check out our family of shows. Lots of veterans doing great things. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at _Misfit Nation. This will keep you up to date with our latest news, episodes, and of course, the stories of our guests. Speaking of which, our next guest grew up in an underprivileged neighborhood in Georgia. He joined the military to leave his environment and become financially independent. Little did he know at that time that enlisting would lead him into a successful military career spanning almost 3 decades. He spent over 2 decades with the United States Army, 16 of those working with the elite Special Operations Forces. He's a retired sergeant major, a decorated combat veteran who has led and mentored hundreds of men and women. He is an author, corporate speaker, consultant, voice actor, certified personal trainer, and leadership expert with business experience in government and commercial commerce. He has been a senior analyst for Northrop Grumman Corporation and an on-air personality and station manager at radio station WFSS in North Carolina. He has also worked as a senior Department of Defense civilian for the United States Army Special Operations Command. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show Sergeant Major retired Matt Drayton. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Rich, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be with you and your listeners today.
Awesome. Thanks for your 3 decades of serving our country. A lot of people can't say they did that and still able to walk upright and feel not as much pain every day. So hopefully you're feeling good as you walk around every day.
Well, Rich, I'm not walking so much upright anymore, but I'm still moving, man. You know, but you know the deal. It's you spend that much time in the military, you're going to come out with a few bumps and bruises, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's why I always tell people when I retired, I had to find my adult job because I had so much fun as a kid for 22 years. I didn't know what to do with myself, so it was great coming out.
So it could be an adult job, or you could say a real job.
Yeah, a real job. Yeah, an actual job, I guess.
Yeah, man, because in the military, you work hard and you push hard, but you do have some fun, and that's kind of, I can pick a military guy out. You give me 10 guys, I can pick the guys in the military right out of the group, just like that, because just a certain way they conduct themselves. So.
And as soon as you sit down next to them, you can start talking like you knew each other forever, and people look at you like you're crazy, and they're like, oh, that's just how we do. We have this bond that it's never ending. It's awesome.
Yeah, the bond, and then the shared experiences. You go in an airport, you're sitting in an airport, and you just strike up a conversation with a guy, and he serves somewhere, and next thing you know, in most cases, you start knowing the same people, which is pretty neat, I think.
The circle gets a lot smaller at that point. It's awesome. Yeah. So, Matt, if you don't mind, tell the Misfit Nation a little bit more about yourself, more than I gave it out in the tidbits of your bio there in the intro, from as far back as you want to go to how you got to what you're doing now, motivating people and guest speaking and such like that, and being an author.
Yeah. So when I was in, so you called out my bio in the military, and the military is kind of the catalyst for the things I started doing outside the military. I've always enjoyed teaching and talking to people, and if I had experiences, good or bad, sharing those with others. I think it's important. So when I retired from the military in 2004, I did some contract work, and then I took a job at the Special Operations Command as a civilian. But I knew I wanted to do some speaking and some mentoring and some other things. So in 2006, I signed up with an organization in Fayetteville, North Carolina called the Great Oak Youth Development Center, which mentored at-risk youth. And at that same time, I stood up my speaking business, where I set up to start going out and talking about my experiences as far as, just being underprivileged and being in a pretty rough environment coming up, and how I got out of that and was able to go in the military, have a successful career, and then turned some things around in my life. So I thought I should share that with others, and basically at that time, try to give others hope. So that's kind of how I got started in the speaking business. After I had mentored at the Youth Development Center for a few months, or for a couple of years, I decided to write my first book, which was titled Succeeding While Black. And that book primarily talked about just how to conduct yourself, handle yourself, deal with adversity, and try to make something of yourself. That was that book, what was primarily what that book was about. And I wrote that one, I want to say like in 2013, 2014 timeframe. And then continued to speak and do speaking engagements, big brothers, big sisters, work with at-risk youth. I sat on a couple of boards of directors dealt with at-risk youth, Youth for Christ Ministries. And I became executive director of the Youth Development Center that I was mentoring at. And then around 2017 or 18 or so, I said, I want to write a book about leadership. But what I want to focus on is something that would help Black leaders, because my experiences throughout my career, Black leaders face some different challenges. And I've seen some of them, including myself, make some mistakes that I thought if I shared that information with them, it would help them. And I'll tell you, everything I do, everything I do is less monetary than it is more about helping people. I feel like if you're passionate about something and you're doing it for the right reasons to help people, the monetary stuff will take care of itself. But so that's kind of where I'm coming from there with my writing. But that's how I became a speaker. That's how I became an author. I got certified with the National Speakers Association. I'm a member there. And I still go out and speak. COVID kind of put a dent in a lot of that. So we did a lot of Zoom. Zoom is not the same as talking to a large audience, but, we do what we can. But so I still go out and speak. I do some writing. I write a little bit for Newsweek and some other periodicals. And I'm just happy to be able to share, my experiences in life and in leadership. I've got 2 grown children. I put them through college. So I've got a lot of experience in life that I feel like I owe it to others to share with them so they can understand that, hey, regardless of where you start, you can always finish in a good place if you put your head down and work hard.
Definitely. And you've done a lot of things. I like that when you first got out, you went right back into giving back and trying to mentor the youth right away and show them that you were able to get out of a bad situation when you were growing up, an endangered situation, basically. And you were able to be a success in the military, which at that time when you joined, it was still kind of in that transition from the good old boy system to, hey, everyone has to work to get what they get. Right. And that's about when you joined right there, based on when you got out. And it was a different army then then definitely what it is now. Of course, now it's a way equaler now than it was way back then. And the fight was even more rigorous for you. And I applaud you for writing Leading While Black, that will help those young Black men and women that are growing up now to say, hey, Matt did it, and he did it during a trying time. He did it during a trying time and learned life's lessons along the way. And now he's giving us those valuable lessons. He's not keeping it inside his chest, and he's able to pass that along to others. And that's the gift that keeps on giving right there.
Yeah, totally agree with you. The Leading While Black book, there's just so much information. There's so many things that I witnessed over my time period, good and bad. Yeah. And, I always tell people, everybody kind of wants to forget the bad things that happened to them or forget the negative feedback. All feedback is good feedback. I mean, because rarely will somebody be honest with you anyway. Rarely will somebody come up and say, hey, man, you're screwing up.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. So the next thing you know, you're fired, or you've lost your job as a squad leader or a platoon sergeant, whatever the case may be. And you don't know why, because nobody ever came and told you that you were screwing up. So I think all feedback is good feedback. And I feel like just sharing some of the mistakes I made, some of the things I witnessed, if it helps one person, then I'm happy about it.
Definitely. And I mean, you took all those lessons, you mentored youth, and then you became the executive director of that same organization. I'm sure that helped boost the morale of those who you were mentoring. And I'm sure some of the ones that you did mentor early looked up and said, if he can be the executive director, I'm going to keep pushing here. I'm going to mentor here, and I'm going to push up, and I'm going to be the next him. And I bet that brings chills to your spine, down your spine when you see them now all growing up, because it's been a little while, and some of them, they're out of college by now, and they're being successful. So I'm sure you have some good stories of them.
Yeah. And, as a matter of fact, one of the young men that I mentored one-on-one, and so we did two types of mentoring. We did one-on-one mentoring, and we also did group mentoring. But the one-on-one mentoring is, we sat down with a social worker, we become a match. I go pick him up at his home. I know his parents, we're almost like a family. And one of the young men, that was quite a challenge initially. I mean, he put me through the ringer a little bit. I was so happy about, I want to say in 2019, I went down to Parris Island to his graduation from Marine basic training.
Nice.
And I tell you, to this day, I've got some real cool pictures of that. To this day, because I'll be honest, I thought the Marines were going to, I didn't think he could make it just based on how he conducted himself with me. I just thought maybe the Marines was probably a little stretch because, the Marines, they don't play,
Right.
They don't mess around with you, man. You go down there, you're going to do it their way. And if you don't, they're going to, you're going to be gone. So I went to his graduation, and I was able to give him a nice memento to take with him to his next duty assignment. He wound up going out to what we call 29 stumps out in California. And he has served well. I spoke with him recently, and I think he's just going to do his 4 years and get out. But, that's fine. I mean, like I told him, hey, listen, this is your career. You have to make those decisions. You have to be happy with it. But the fact that he is just a totally different person from who I knew when I started mentoring him at 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
It just means a lot. It just makes you, it makes you feel very proud to have had some impact on a young person's life. And, and that's all we can ask. I'm where I am today because people took an interest in me and helped me. And I think we just keep doing that. The world will be a better place.
Definitely. And I think you said it earlier, we don't do this for the money. We do it for the helping of one person. And that one young man there that you helped from the age of 10 to the time he graduated boot camp at Parris Island. Then he went off to be a Hollywood Marine after being an Islander. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to cross that barrier, but he did it. And so he's a Hollywood Marine for 4 years. He's getting that background. He has that now. He has everything you instilled into him to give him that background that maybe you didn't think was working, and it worked. And now the Marines, of course, like you said, that they will break a man and a woman. Yeah. They'll break you down and rebuild you, and
bring you back up, and
then give you a boost. Yeah.
So whatever he does now for the rest of his life, I know he will be successful because there's nothing anyone will throw at him will be as hard as what he's already been through.
Right, and he's definitely seeing a different way now, and he'll probably never want to go back to the way it was. So that's awesome. Hopefully he'll push forward with whatever training he has and turn it into something awesome on the outside as well. So did you start in the Marines as well and then came Army?
No. So I'm U.S. Army. I started out U.S. Army and stayed Army 26 years.
26 years now.
Yep.
That's a long haul in the Army, and you wound up at the Mother Church at Fort Bragg. That's where you retired, and everyone calls that the Mother Church now, since that's where ForceCom headquarters is. USOC's there. Everyone's there now, and so you got to do airborne, do all the craziest things, all the high speed things, and then you got out and kind of hit the brakes a little bit, but kept pushing forward your leadership. You kept wanting to make sure other people knew how to lead. I watched your video on your website earlier on the YouTube, and I can see that you talked earlier about the Zoom versus live. And I can see how you were feeding off the audience in your speech. So I know that probably hurt you a lot going to the world of the little squares and emojis. But how was that transition for you, and are you feeling it coming back so you can go live now?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity. I do some volunteer work with the Soft Warrior Foundation, And I had an opportunity last June to go down and talk with some Gold Star children who are preparing to go to college. You know, the Soft Warrior Foundation, I am an ambassador for them. So I help them with fundraising and support wherever we can. And so I went down and spoke with some children that are getting ready to head to college. And that was my first time in almost a year and a half in front of a live audience. And albeit, you know, these are young people, these are you know, teenagers getting and above getting ready to head into college, it's still a live audience. So that was extremely refreshing, extremely exciting for me, because I really like talking to people and being able to get feedback from them, both verbally and non-verbally, you know, be it a laugh or just a head nod or something, you know. And so, or a yawn, you know, that mean, hey, pick it up, you know what I mean? Hey, you know, all of that is, like I said, all feedback is good feedback. But
Right.
So that was really good for me to be able to do that. I've gone out and done a couple of other engagements. Nothing big, you know. I've done some engagements in the past, you know, several hundred people in the audience. But you know, a lot of people still aren't doing that right now. But it is ramping back up, and it was a big transition, you know, with the Zoom stuff. You know, like I said, you really have to be hitting on all cylinders to keep everybody interested in a Zoom call. Why? Because we've seen all the videos. People are sitting in their house, the dog's behind them, the kids pulling on their leg, the doorbell's ringing. I mean, you know, there's so many distractions. Whereas if you're in a conference room or auditorium or whatever it may be, you know, your attention is a little more focused on the speaker. But it's good, you know. And again, I think again, going back to just accepting every challenge as an opportunity, you know, that was an opportunity to say, hey, look, you know, we don't know how this thing's going to pan out. We know at some point we'll be back live, but you got to make the best of it. You got to work on your technique with this Zoom thing so you can reach people and at least get your message across. So it forced a lot of us speakers to do that.
And I'm sure if you don't have a team working with you, you probably have to have multiple screens to see all the faces of the Zoom, or have to keep swiping to the arrows.
Right. So I have two laptops set up, you know, and I do the, you know, I've got one screen with the, you know, with the audience, and then, you know, the other, you know, I can kind of watch myself and my background and all this stuff, make sure nothing's going on behind me, you know. I mean, because, you know, that's, yeah, you got to be prepared, you know. And
right.
It's like, so I'm a little bit, you know, with my military background, I'm a little bit of a stickler for any type of video teleconferencing. I feel like you need to put that effort in so everything goes smoothly. And, you know, so my door's closed, and I'm in my office here at the house, but my door's closed now and things like that, you know. So, and I see a lot of stuff happening that probably could be avoided if just a little bit more preparation. So not knocking anyone, but I and a lot of that stuff's very entertaining. But
especially
yeah,
when you look at it
right.
later.
It's definitely a challenge trying to keep track with it all and stay focused.
And, you know, the live audience, most of those people want to be there. They want to be in your audience. They want to be at that conference, and you are 95% their attention.
Right.
At home, like you said, they have the kids, they have the dog, they have someone knocking on their door, someone walking outside their window. So you're third or fourth down the line of what they're actually doing.
Right.
And they probably don't want to be there. It's just something their boss said, hey, go listen to Matt speak, and we'll call that your 8 hours for the day.
Right.
So,
right. Exactly. And you know, and even then, you know, it's still your job, though. I always tell people, if you've got this opportunity to engage people, then you should take that opportunity as a opportunity to educate or teach or give them something they can use going forward. So that's kind of that's my mindset going into any talks or speech or podcast, anything I go into. I try to provide some information that may help someone down the road. I think that's what it's all about. And I think if you stick with that mindset, you know, just like your opening statement, which I loved, you know, you're talking to veterans, you know, listen, you can't say that enough, what you said before when you opened up. I mean, it can't be said enough, because veterans struggle, and a lot of them struggle silently and alone. And so I thought I just wanted to take the opportunity right now to say, hey man, that's a good message you start out with. And I'm sure you probably do start out that way every show, but that is highly effective, I think, and very good way to start your show.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Well, now you speak about, you wrote a book on leadership, you wrote about being successful. What 3 tips? I know on your video you had 3 key things that you started off with for leadership.
Yeah.
Would you share those 3 your 3 main items that people to be successful as a leader in business?
Yep. So listen, so one of the things I tell leaders, because if you're in charge of people, that means you've got a team that you're responsible for, and then that team is responsible for, usually in most cases, either your own business's success or an organization's success. So the first thing I tell all leaders, you really need to get to know your team members. Know who is on your team, know something about them, get to know them, get to know them on a personal level, show them that you care about them. And I think what my experience has been, and the leaders that I've worked for and the ones that I've tried to emulate, are the ones that are very personable with the people that work for them. They go out of their way to kind of learn something about them, to know what they're doing on the weekend. Hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? And then ask them about it on Monday. Know their kids, how many kids they have. You don't have to know them by name or wives by name, but you know something about these people. And they're just not some number or some statistic that is in your office. So I think that is very, very important, is knowing your team members. Another tip, and I kind of, conflict. So conflict is a given in business and in the workplace, in the military. I mean, there will be conflict. There will be issues that arise that need addressing to keep everything running smoothly. What I have noticed is with conflict, the earlier you deal with conflict, the sooner you address it, the better off the whole organization or your business will be. Conflict does not get better by ignoring it or not wanting to hear about it or not wanting to acknowledge it, hoping it will go away on its own. It only gets worse. And I've seen situations where conflict arose and people tried to take it to a senior leader, and the senior leader was like, don't come in my office with that. So now these people are trying to deal with these conflicts on their own. And before you know it, you've got a full-blown crisis that has gone, in this instance I'm talking about, a case that has gone up 2 or 3 headquarters, almost all the way to Washington, D.C.
Wow.
When it didn't have to, because all that had to happen was it get addressed early. The commander says, hey, this is a problem. He brings it to his higher commander, and then, then it stays in house, because it's like, hey, we found this, we resolved it, here's what we're doing, and boom. But sometimes we don't want to, we're unconfrontational, we don't want to deal with that stuff. So then we go ahead and we don't address it. But that's my second one. So it would be, listen, bad news doesn't get better if you just let it go. So address it, take care of it, and resolve it and move on. The third thing I'll bring up, and I've got a lot more, but one of the things that I have been real big on throughout my career was just having a contingency plan. Whenever you plan an operation or an initiative, have a backup. So if you're getting ready to move your office to another place, you need to look at all of the factors in that office, that new place you're going to. And I use that because that's a simple analogy. But if this new office is not wired for your equipment, if this new office cannot support the amount of people you have on your staff, if this new office is not logistically located in a place that everybody can get there in a reasonable amount of time, these are all the things you need to look at. And then, of course, you have to say, okay, if there's a problem, if we have to go in this building and the internet's out for a week, what are we going to do? How are we going to solve this? And so I think having a contingency plan, a backup plan for your operations, for major initiatives that you're planning for your job, for your business, or for your organization is crucial to success. And I'll stop there. You asked for three, and I'll give you those three.
Okay.
Yeah, because one of the things, in the military, we do contingency planning all the time. But what I noticed, I've been a civilian now almost 20 years, and a lot of civilian businesses, they have one course of action, and that's it. And it's like, and then when you ask, hey, so what if this happens or this happens, then people kind of look at you like you're either negative or, but it's like, hey man, there's possibility that this may not go the way we want it. And then we need to be ready to act on it on a backup plan. So those would be three key ones that I would give you.
Definitely. And when you were saying about the bad news, I wrote down what my first platoon sergeant told me: bad news does not get better with time.
It doesn't, man.
Way back in '93, he told me that.
Yeah,
I kept
and
it.
It's not original. I got it from one of my platoon sergeants, man. Hey, bad news, bring it forward, and then because now people know you look. Hey, here's some bad stuff we see that just happened, man. And I'll give you an example. So we're kind of this thing in Ukraine, and they found out that I guess the Ukrainian forces were having some issues. The Russian forces were having some issues with logistics and things of that nature. Well, and it was the same thing in Iraq when we went there in 2003. The leaders, if you can't go to a leader with bad news, if you think you're going to get shot in the head, if this leader's, then what do you tell them? We got the green, yellow, red sign. Hey, everything's green, man. Because listen, cool. if telling you something's amber or red is going to get me shot, then I'm telling you it's green. Yeah. But then when we go to war, nothing's green. But I can't tell you that because and so that's kind of what I saw with some of the stuff happening in Ukraine. You can't go to the leaders and tell them that things are bad. So yeah, so it's definitely, and as a leader, last thing I'll say on it, as a leader, you need to be receptive to bad news. You need to be the type of leader where your people can come to you and say, hey man, we've got a problem. Because I've worked for leaders that were like that you couldn't go to them with problems. You had to resolve them yourself. And that's not your job. That's why they get paid that big money to resolve those issues. So I'll leave it there.
I think all three of your tips there come into play together. If you know your team and there is an issue, you have those contingencies. You should have those contingencies in place in order to fix that conflict and help your team member get through that problem together. And it's one team, one fight, like we were always taught. Right. You said earlier about in the civilian world, the one course of action. It's also they a lot of times have a single point of failure. One person has all the keys to the success. If that person's absent, we don't know how to do our job.
Yeah. No, it's single point of failure, man. We heard that all the time. and it's interesting. There was a commercial out on television a few years back where I can't remember what it was for, but they went to this meeting. This guy slips and hits his head on the table. And he was like the main guy. He knocks himself out. So then the backup guy comes in, slips and falls out. So now you got this person sitting there that has no clue. And talk about single points of failure. And I recall years ago we had some action officers. These guys would work these projects, big projects, and then they go down to the headquarters down in Tampa, wherever, to brief, and they wouldn't let those guys in the room. These guys were all the answers, and they're out in the hallway.
Right.
Now you got some guys of senior rank sitting in there, can't answer any of the questions that need to be answered because they left all the talent out. Not that these senior guys aren't talented. It's just they're not action officers. They're not the guys doing the nuts and bolts, and they leave them in the hallway. So now nothing gets approved because nobody can answer the question. So there's a lot of little things that you have to be cognizant of as a leader, but I have always been perfectly comfortable speaking, or if someone else was the lead on it, let them speak. They're the SME on it. Let them talk. And I think what I just said needs to be said. Hopefully it gets to the right people because I've seen it too many times where the smartest guy, the guy who's running this program, is out in the hallway because everybody else wants to shine in front of the generals. You know what I mean? And it's just BS, man. At some point your goal should be to get your mission approved by that general, not you go in there and wow him with what you think you know. So I said that, and I'll leave it alone.
You go in with your tidbits and hope you got it right by your smart
That's
guys
right.
out in the hallway.
And one of the good things about being a civilian in my position now, I can say those things. I had to sit and watch them years ago and cringe and just shake my head. But now I can make comments about it because it's the truth, you know.
Definitely. And everything you've said so far has been outstanding, on point. Hopefully a lot of our listeners who are veteranpreneurs or veteran entrepreneurs are taking notes and saying, hey, these are great ways to make my organization get better as well. I can take the lessons I had and also listen to Matt here and go forward. Matt, how does someone get in contact with you to maybe have you come speak to their organization about leadership or even book you for your show?
Yep. So my So my website is mattdrayton.com. If you go to my website, you can find all of my social media handles. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can also see some of my, you can purchase my books on my website. You can also get in touch with me through my website and for bookings or just to say hello. And like I said, I'm on LinkedIn, you can follow me there. I post stuff. I try to post positive things, when this airs, I'll post it. I try to post things that help people. Like I said, I have God has probably blessed me more than I deserve, and I've been able to do a lot of things. But I had a lot of help, and so I'm trying to spend. I'm at a point in my life now where I'm closer to the end than I am the beginning.
Right.
So now I'm trying to help people, just trying to share some of the information I have, some of the relationships, things of that nature. So that's how you can get a hold of me. But mattdrayton.com is how you can reach out to me. You can get a hold of me via any of my social media pages or via my website.
Awesome. And are your books in any of the hard stores too, like Barnes and Noble? Or
so they're on Amazon. They're not in brick and mortar stores.
Okay.
There's a lot of costs associated with that, and a lot, quite frankly, my books, both of them, are just a little over 100 or so pages. I didn't get into a whole 300-400 pages. It's not a novel. It's more of a self-help type stuff, quick and to the point. So, but you can definitely get them on Amazon. You can definitely get them. I think you can get them in Kindle editions. So just go to Amazon.com. You can also get them through Outskirts Press, who are my publishers.
Awesome. Matt, thanks again for everything you've done for our country. Over 3 decades of service to our country, and then serving with purpose after. Serving with purpose, on purpose, to help others. And that's amazing. And what you're doing is great. Keep up that good work and keep up that fire. Even though you said you're closer to the end, you still got that fire to keep going. Yep. Keep doing it and keep doing it right.
Well, hey, Rich, thanks for having me. Thanks for your service. Thanks for the things you're doing with this podcast and reaching out to our veterans. And I really appreciated talking to you today. And again, I just hope that something that I said will resonate with your listeners and help them with their businesses, organizations, or even with their personal careers.
Awesome. I believe it will. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thank you.